Welcome to Coffee's Conversations and Keeping It Real. We're here. My host, Trina George. I'm Philip Marcel. That's me.
You.
And we're here with this guy right there in the red. The Brooklynite. Oh my gosh. Yankee loving. Oh my gosh. Hurricane fanatic. Oh. David Greenberg, my good buddy.
All my business in
Right?
Gainesville.
No, That's right. No, because UF did their thing this weekend. They won in the weekend baseball
They played
tournament.
Miami, right?
Yeah, 3 games, so they won
Okay.
2 out of 3. They won the series, so it was all good. Soon as like David left, UF started winning and getting some hits in. That was good stuff. Good. So cool, man. Thank you so much, Dave, for coming and being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. You own and operate Greenberg Communications here in Gainesville. What is it that you do? What is it?
Okay, Greenberg Communications is a full-service media relations company, agency.
Yeah.
We do everything from branding, website development, SEO, all aspects of social media marketing. We help clients come up with plans and implement their plans for traditional marketing and advertising. We do publicity. We do everything that needs to be done either in-house or with partners to put our clients in front of their target audience as effectively as possible.
Yeah. And that's you do a lot under that. And usually an agency does, How did you get to that point where you
gonna ask that.
had your own agency? Because I know
Well,
you don't just wake up one day and say I'm
the real quick history is after spending several years teaching and then in sales, mostly in the Miami area, and that's why I went to work at a newspaper in Miami. Was there at the afternoon daily newspaper there called the Miami News, which, like most afternoon newspapers, doesn't exist anymore.
That's right.
When the news folded, I came to Gainesville with plans to be here for a year or two as a reporter at the Gainesville Sun and then move on to a bigger paper in a bigger city.
Yeah.
Met my wife. Those plans changed.
They tend to.
Yes, they do. I spent 10 years as a reporter and editor at the Sun. Left rather abruptly, standing up in the middle of a meeting and saying, "I quit."
Really? That's
Yeah.
how you quit?
Wow.
That's how. I was having a disagreement and I quit. Didn't have a job, but I was 3 weeks away from a job that I knew was coming as a public information officer for the Florida Division of Emergency Management.
Yeah.
So that required me to move to Tallahassee, but my wife and young daughter were in Gainesville.
Yeah.
And if people were around in Florida at that time, this was 20 years ago, it was the busiest year any state ever had in the history of emergency management prior to 9/11.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were active. We had fires all over the state, if people remember that, if they were
Wildfires.
here that year, and all sorts of other things. And so I learned, after having been on the media side, as a public information officer, I learned the other side.
Yeah.
Did that for a year, decided that Tallahassee was not where I wanted to be, moved back to Gainesville.
You just got brownie points by the Gainesville.
There you go.
Exactly.
And moved back to Gainesville, trying to figure out what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And I realized, with my wife's help, she said, "You're a great writer. People will hire you to publicize for them, to do publicity for their business." And that's really how it started.
So listening to your wife is how it started.
That's really how it
awesome.
started. She's going to get all that credit.
Yeah.
And I started out with a handful of clients, many of whom, it was almost funny because towards the end of my tenure at the Gainesville Sun, part of what I was doing was the business reporter.
Right.
So I knew a lot of business people in the community. And when I was suddenly there with my own agency, they didn't even know, a lot of them didn't even know that I had moved to Tallahassee. They thought I had just become a full-time editor.
Oh, wow.
And that's why they didn't see me in the paper anymore.
Oh.
But I started out that way. And what happened, most of my clients then and now are small and medium-sized businesses and organizations. And they loved the fact that I got them publicity.
Right.
but they also said, can you build a website? Well, this was a 20 years ago kind of website,
Oh,
which is
wow.
different than
Yes.
today.
Oh, yeah.
So-
Can you help us find the best advertising opportunities? So they were asking about all these other things. Can you design a logo for us? Can you do this? Well, when you're starting out a business like that, the answer is always yes.
Yeah, right.
And then you figure out how to do it.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's what I
that's
did.
the
I,
hustle.
I
You make
brought
it work, right?
Yeah, I
Gotcha.
brought people came and helped me, taught
Yeah.
me how to do design work. Now, even today, I'm not going to design your logo,
Right.
but I can design your newsletter.
Yeah.
I have that much skill.
Yeah.
But where I couldn't do it, I brought in subcontractors and people who helped. And over time, the business grew from essentially a public relations agency to this full service marketing agency. And as it grew, people who were subcontractors became staff.
Right.
And it grew to the point where I started out working. A room in my house was my office, and we moved into an office. We've grown, and we're now, like I said, a full service marketing agency, providing all these services to, at any given time, anywhere from a dozen to 15 to 20 different clients. Some clients use us for all those services, and some clients use us for specific parts of those services.
Kind of thing, what as they need. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
How in the world did you go from, okay, you're in the public information,
Mm-hmm.
abrupt, just leaving it, and like, how did you get your first clients? Like, how did
Well,
that happen?
One thing that happened that was nice, my first client was the Florida Division of Emergency Management because they hired me to help train county level public information officers.
Yes.
I wrote the training packet for public information officers, and even after I stopped working there, they hired me to go around the state when they did trainings for these people and to be part of their training team. So there was income that was coming in immediately. And then the other thing that happened really was people that knew me in town as I was getting started would ask for help with something. There was a long time, just as a quick example, a long-time business owner on University Avenue, very well-known business, been there I drove by today, it says they've been there since 1973.
Wow.
And there was a point, this was about 18 years ago, where the city was considering taking University Avenue and two-laning it, one lane in each direction. And the business owners in that area were going nuts because it would destroy that, while it was being done, it would destroy their businesses. And this guy was telling me about this problem, and I did some research. I talked to people I knew. I knew people at the Department of Transportation. I had been in South Miami where this same thing was done, interestingly, by the same company the city wanted to hire. And it was a failure down in South Miami.
Yeah.
And so when I talked to the person at DOT, they explained to me, we're aware of this, and we told the city they could do it. All they have to do is come up with another east-west thoroughfare that has a traffic count that University Avenue does, and give us that instead for University Avenue, because the state owns University Avenue. The city doesn't
Really?
Oh.
at the time.
Right.
And so I wrote this piece, and this guy was saying, well, what are we going to do with this? And I talked to one of my...
You wrote it for the paper?
Well, I wrote it for him,
For him, yeah.
and I gave it to the former editorial page editor at the Gainesville Sun, Ron Cunningham, who's now retired. And Ron put it on the front of a Sunday issue section. And as a result of that article, the city project died.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that's sort of how I found clients in the beginning, talking to people.
Yeah.
They would tell people that I did this or I did that, and then suddenly I had a client who wanted a newsletter and wanted they wanted a newsletter, and they wanted me to handle their media relations for their 16 county area. It was the Haven Hospice. Before it was Haven Hospice, it was Hospice in North Central Florida.
Yeah.
They hired me to do their media relations for their 16-county area. So I dealt with all the media outlets in those areas. So over time, it grew. And as the industry changed, as advertising changed, and social media became a much more important part, it's no longer just TV, radio, and print.
No.
There's all these other aspects. You just sort of incorporate all those things, and suddenly you're at the point where with some clients, depending on their budget, we don't even talk about those traditional outlets.
Yeah.
We just talk about social media because of the value that you can get and how you could target your message specifically for your audience. So it's just over time it built to what it is.
How did you, like, from where you were, you know, when you first started to now, can we talk like about like the change in the industry as far as
well, the
publicity? I mean, it comes down to publicity, you know.
Yeah, well, the biggest change has been from when I started to now is the advent of social media. You know, it used to be if a client wanted me to get their message out there were two ways to do it. You could try to get them free publicity. Well, and they all want free publicity. They're a candy store, but they do something unique, so they want free publicity. Well, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
You know, the newspaper's not going to write an article about your candy store. But if you did something unique in the community, then I might be able to get you some free publicity that way. The other thing was, again, it was either print, radio, or TV back then.
Right.
Although I did have clients in Gainesville who would say to me, "What about billboards?" And I'd go, if we were in Ocala, and I had clients in Ocala over the years, billboards in Ocala are perfect. Billboards in Gainesville some people are okay with them and some people don't like them, so I don't encourage them for most of my clients.
I
But
don't know the last time I looked at a billboard.
yeah.
No, it's an impression.
Right.
It is an impression.
Right.
It is.
So it was print, radio, and TV. And so you looked at your target audience. I have a client whose target audience is seniors, older people. And there was a great TV opportunity for him that I was able to get. I was able to get a great price for him. This was 5 years ago. And he's thrilled. Today, he still does that same TV thing because it's bringing him business that he wants.
Yes.
I have other clients who, you know, I say TV or I say radio, they go, "Are you nuts?" You know, and or I say print, you know, they go, "We don't have the money to do that." And that's the advent of social media gave us another avenue to get our clients' message out to people because we can control. If you were going to do print, you would do print in a newspaper or magazine, and whoever picked it up, whether that was your target audience or not, that's who saw it.
Right.
So some of it was beneficial and some of it wasn't.
Right.
But if we're going to do social media advertising, if we're going to do advertising on Facebook or some other forum, we can actually say we want men between this age who live in this area to see this ad. Or we want women of this age in this particular area, or parents, or grandparents, or
so you
whatever.
can narrow it down and be that specific.
Right, and it costs so much less.
Right. I feel like it's a steal.
Yeah.
Like from what it is right now, it's like.
I mean, I have a client right now who we're boosting a Facebook post for them.
Yeah.
Simple thing. It's very targeted.
Yeah.
It's a 3-day boost. It's costing them $20. And the last time I looked at it was earlier this afternoon. And over 1,000 people who are specific in the within like 10 miles of where his business is, who are the right age, the right gender, the people that we want to reach. Over 1,000 people have seen it.
That's incredible.
And he has spent about half of his $20 so far.
You know, I remember back when I first started my business, Valpak. Remember Valpak?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I remember spending $1,200 on a couple of zip codes in the area just for a general blast on that.
Now
And
you
we
can it
do-
for 20 or 40 bucks.
Right, we do that with
And it's not
clients
even-
now.
It's just going.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
they probably,
We still do that with clients. It's not
Yes.
Valpak.
Uh-huh.
There's other targeted ways
There
to
are,
get
yes.
addresses.
That's the mail, right?
Right,
Mhm.
and that's effective.
it is effective, yes.
But there's
If
a
you
greater
have it.
cost. There's a
Yes,
greater cost to that.
cost, and it's like,
But it's targeted. It's not like, I mean, I love putting clients on TV, on radio, and in
Yeah.
print. Don't get me wrong.
That
If it's the
broadcast.
right situation. But if I want clients in a specific community, I have a client. If I want to reach a target audience in a specific community, I have a client right now who has a business in Micanopy. I'm sorry, in Jonesville,
Yeah.
and we're trying to reach families, residences in Jonesville. Well, we're looking at a mailer
Yes.
because we can do specific mail routes. You don't have to do the whole zip code anymore like you
Yeah.
used to.
Yeah.
We could look at specific mail routes. It only goes to residential. It skips the commercial addresses.
Yeah.
And so it gets right into the hands of the people you want. Sure, it costs more money than social media,
Right.
but it reaches their audience.
Do you think social media is more effective than like some of your other, like mail or?
It really
Anything like
depends
that?
on the client and what the client's needs are. Like I said, I have that client whose target audience is an older generation, and older people. More and more older people, because we're becoming those people, are looking at looking at social media.
Right.
But if I have a client who says to me, I want to reach people who are 60 or 70 or which is a little unusual, but that happens.
Yeah.
And I have a great relationship with CBS, the local CBS. I get great pricing. And in reality, those people are still watching. CBS skews
Yeah.
with the exception of The Big Bang Theory, it skews to that age group.
Really?
Yeah. Think of shows like NCIS
Yes.
and shows like that.
Right. That's true. That's very true. If you
that
can target
those
it,
people watch, and
I
you
have
could
lots
target
of
it.
clients that watch NCIS.
Yeah.
And most of my clients are seniors.
Right.
and
And if
elderly.
I could put a commercial on during that
Yes.
and get a really good price, and I can get a price that's different than you can get.
Yeah.
As an agency, I get a different price.
Right.
I also, there are a couple of times a year when these media outlets will come to certain of their clients, like me, and do special sales.
Yes.
I mean, I have someone right now who is interested in TV, and he's also interested in that same age group.
Yeah.
And we're waiting because I know the sale is coming
Right.
in March.
Yeah.
During this 1 week in March. So instead of going and signing a contract with them this week, we're waiting until March because I'm going to save my client a lot of money by doing that.
Do you think so? And this is cool. So when I went to school for advertising and stuff, we had to be aware of zipping and zapping. Through the commercials and stuff
Right.
like that. But what about this age? Do you think the older age group or different age groups will just kind of sit and appreciate what they have? They'll watch the commercials no matter what, or will they?
They don't zip and zap.
They don't zip and zap.
No.
Yeah.
They just sit. Fortunately, they just sit and watch. Now, for a business who's looking for a younger audience, a different audience, I have other options for them.
Options
It
and
could be
methods.
radio during drive time, although a lot of people are doing alternative things like XM or
Yes.
so, or that's where social media becomes much more important. If my target audience, for example, are the students at UF,
Yeah.
then we're doing almost all social media to reach them.
Right.
Or we're doing geofencing or other things that specifically zoom in on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we put together packages for each client that's totally unique for that client.
Where does your hustle come from? Where does your grind come from?
I have this philosophy, and it may sound corny, whatever. That
Nothing is corny and hustle though.
right.
No.
I try to do the best I can do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It comes from things that occurred in my life that make me want to do the best I can do, and that means the best I can do for me and the best I can do for the people who are relying on me.
Yeah.
So, I had, just as an example, I had a client call me at 9 o'clock. She emailed me at 10 to 9 last night and said, "Can we talk about something?"
Oh wow, 10 to 9.
Yeah,
Also,
last night. And I emailed her back, and we were supposed to meet tomorrow. I said, "Can we talk when we meet tomorrow?"
Yeah.
And she said, "Can you call me now just for a few minutes?" So I called her, and we
Yeah.
talked about what it was she needed to talk about.
Yeah.
And I had an email from her at 8 o'clock this morning, too.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of doing business these days. It's
It
not
is.
like you go to work at 9, you go home at 5, and you're done.
Done
You
for the
know,
day.
No.
Yes. Yes.
if you operate that way, you're not going to have too many clients.
Right. Right. You kind of got to be around.
So
the
it's
clock.
just-
especially when you're independent and you're doing it. And
Right.
you're the boss.
It's
It's
just-
like it stops with you. You really got to take care of people.
It's
You
just
have
do
to
the
be
best I
available.
can for me and for everybody else who
Yeah.
I deal with on a daily basis.
That's a grind. Well, I want to thank you, David, for coming out and just sharing a lot about your business and everything. It was a lot of knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
appreciate
So for your time. We definitely appreciate that. It's been Coffee Conversation, keeping it real. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.